Hello, everyone. Looks like we're live. Give people a few moments to jump on. I'm having my morning ritual of tea. I have to show you all. This is like the most amazing tea maker. Oops, I just spilled some on myself. But I just heat my water up in a tea kettle, and then I bought this from Teavana. And so I just scoop some of my tea out. I'm having mint tea today. And so you put the actual loose leaves in here, and then you let it steep, and then it's really cool. You just set it on top of your mug, and it just filters your tea. So I like using loose tea because it's a little more natural. And then I have a cup of tea. Oh, I love Teavana teas too. Their Oprah's chai tea is really good, but I wait till it's like 70% off and then I get it. And then I use, I've been working on this whole sugar thing a little bit, and somebody told me about this stuff called NuSweet. I don't know if you can see it, NuSweet, but it's like supposed to sweeten your stuff but not turn, I don't know, something about molecules, and it doesn't get absorbed into your bloodstream or something. So I just put 2 drops of this in there, and it sweetens up my tea. Okay, so getting down to business. I gotta stir my tea up first here. So I'm hitting the road here shortly. I'm heading to Cincinnati for 2 days of teaching, which I'm super excited about. And then Bowling Green next week. And then we are getting ready to launch our winter series that I worked really hard on the whole month of October to create. And we're going to teach 2 topics. One is going to be how to foster and develop this idea of a growth mindset, which we all need help in that area. We have a tendency to kind of put these certain, I'm not sure what I want to call them, but these beliefs, like one of my fixed mindset beliefs is that I'll never be a healthy eater. And then I sometimes get embarrassed because, you know, I do all this running and my body is really good to me, and then I don't always feed it very well. And so I used to, when people would have a tendency to see me and they'd be like, oh, you're so fit. And then they'd even say something like, oh, you probably never eat a candy bar or a cupcake. And then I would be the first to jump in, and I would start to justify, one, because I do run all these miles and I'm not a super skinny runner's body. That's just not the way I'm built. And 2, I don't have a handle on the healthy eating thing either. Hi, Pat and Jeff. Good morning. And so I would be the first when people would be like, oh, you would never eat anything like this. You're Miss Healthy. And I would be the first to be like, oh, no, I'm the worst eater ever. I eat 3 Hostess cupcakes every night before I go to bed, which might be true. But that's a very fixed mindset that I have. 1, I'm justifying why I'm not like this super sleek, skinny body. And 2, I'm projecting out to the universe that I'm never going to be able to get a handle on this whole healthy eating thing. And so Carol Dweck has done a ton of research about we have 2 mindsets. We have the fixed mindsets that says I was basically born with a certain amount of intelligence and a certain amount of skill and talent, and I can never change those. That's the fixed mindset. And so for me, healthy eating has been a fixed mindset. And then there's the growth mindset. And the growth mindset says, look, yes, you were born with certain attributes, certain skills and talents and intelligence that may come a little easier to you, but you have the ability through effort and practice to train those skills, to become smarter, healthier, more athletic, a better reader, a better writer. We all have the ability to practice and work on those skills. It's funny, I was watching Will Smith give a talk, and he was saying that he really doesn't feel like he was blessed with a ton of acting talent, that he said, you have talent and you have skill, and he will outwork anyone when it comes to skill. And that is what has elevated his talent. And so I think that when we foster this idea with our students too, and we say, look, we know that there are certain things that don't come easy to you. I mean, that's a fact, right? There are some kids who really struggle to read. There are other kids who struggle with math, with writing. But the thing that really kind of gets to me is that we have a whole slew of kids that are going through our school system, and they are feeling like they are not enough. Because our school system, we've been there's these different ages that we've been through. We had, the agricultural age way back when, and the people who were the most successful were the ones who had muscle and manpower, and they could cultivate and fertilize and work the fields and produce the product to be sold. And then we went into the industrial age, and that's whenever machines began to replace human backs. And so you had this mass production factories that popped up, and the skills that were the most valued in a worker were who can perform a certain task repetitively and efficiently over time. And so, that's when all these factories and mass production popped up across the area. That was the industrial age. Not that we totally left the agricultural age, but we kind of evolved into a new set of skills that were needed in that particular workforce. Well, what happened to all of those jobs, or a ton of those jobs? They got outsourced across the ocean, right? We lost a ton of job opportunities here in the U.S. because these mass factories began to pop up across the ocean, and they could produce this product at much lower cost. And so then what we did is, now we had the industrial age. Now the set of skills that were needed changed, because we entered what's called the knowledge age. And the knowledge age is what we've been in for the last, probably 50 years, which is the more knowledge you have in your head, the more successful you're going to be. And in our school systems, and this is all school systems, this is kind of what's been valued. The school systems have tailored to the left brain thinker. You have your left brain and you have your right brain. And your left brain is very logical, mathematical, sequential. It can read and understand information and communicate it. And then your right brain is kind of known as the more creative side. This is the one that can see the big picture, that can look and see multiple solutions or multiple kind of weird ways to figure out and do certain things. The right side of the brain is also the part of the brain that is into design and art and music and creating product. And the right side of the brain looks at the world very differently than the left side of the brain. And we all have parts of this going on, but the so-called IQ, so to speak, has been a left brain capability. And for me, the right brain is EQ, emotional intelligence, people who know how to have empathy and how to make connections with people, and how to have compassion. And so our school system has only been interested in left brain capabilities. And so we have a slew of kids who have gone through our school system who feel like they are not enough. They feel like they're not smart because left brain capabilities don't really come easily to them. They're not good at reading, they're not good at writing, they're not good at math. Those things don't come naturally to them, and they classify themselves as not being very smart. I mean, kids will even tell me this. They can't measure up to other kids, which makes me really sad because we need those right brain capabilities, and we need our school systems to start to validate and understand that those right brain capabilities are just as important as the left brain capabilities. And what's happened is, now that we've been in the knowledge age, we're shifting. Why? Because knowledge is literally at our fingertips. I was giving a workshop last week to the week before to 50 teachers. And I said, raise your hand if any of you know the dates of World War I. Now, these are educators. These are teachers, right? I don't know the dates of World War I. I'm not saying that's not important, but I don't know those dates. Out of 50 people, one person raised their hand. And so why? Because we can now, knowledge is at our fingertips, right? We can Google. Knowledge is, with the internet and the explosion of all that, everything's at our fingertips. And so there's no longer this great need to kind of, I call it the spray and pray method. We spray our kids with all this information. We vomit it up to them and we ask them to retain it, which they might for Friday's test, and then they forget it over the weekend, because in all reality, they can Google a lot of the information. We no longer need kids to memorize facts and information so much that's at their fingertips, is that we need them to understand the patterns, the thinking behind why those things happened. It's the critical thinking piece that we now need to be interested in. And so we're leaving the knowledge age. Daniel Pink wrote this fantastic book that has completely changed the way that I look at education, and it's called A Whole New Mind. And what he says is, we're leaving the knowledge age because it's now at our fingertips. And not only that, but all these left brain jobs, like in the knowledge age, these are the occupations who have been the most successful. Attorneys, doctors, CEOs, financial analysts, accountants. These are all very left brain capabilities. And so if you could do those left brain functions, you could get a job and you could make a lot of money. Now, what Daniel Pink is saying is that we're leaving the knowledge age and we're entering the high concept, high touch age, which means you need to be whole brained. Like, these left brain capabilities are important. And so if you're not a strong reader or a strong writer, we got to practice and let you know that we can get you there. That's the growth mindset. You're going to have to work harder than someone else, but we can get you there. You're just not there yet. That's what Carol Dweck says. The power of yet. You may not have those skills yet, but you're working on it. And so we're leaving the knowledge age and we're entering what's called high concept, high touch, which is all about empathy and relationships and people who can step back and come up with multiple ways of doing something. They can be very creative in the way that they produce a product. If you think back to even 50 years ago, you went to buy a toilet brush from the store, which, by the way, I think there was like one store. There weren't these super mega Targets and Walmarts. You had one toilet brush to pick from. Now there are, 12 different ones, and they all look pretty. They have these great design features. Why? Because we now value things to be beautiful. We want things to be beautiful that we buy. And so what he's saying is that we need to have a curriculum in place that gives credit to right brain thinking and also fosters that capability in our students. That we need a curriculum that is whole brain based. And that means that we've got to bring creativity back into our classrooms, because it has literally been crushed out of our curriculums. You are no longer really allowed, or it's not really good practice to do a craft with your students, or to create a Christmas ornament, or to do a coloring sheet. I mean, I'm guilty of it too. I remember being back in the day thinking I don't have time for that kind of thing. But I now know that we have to give students opportunities to be creative, because those are the 21st century skills that they're going to need. Your left brain knowledge worker, they aren't going to do as well in this new age if they don't have some right brain capabilities. Why? Because there are people in India who are graduating from a highly accredited college over in India, and they are becoming engineers, and they make 25 times the annual income of an average person over in India. They make 25 times when they graduate with that engineering degree. They make 25 times the amount of income. But do you know what that equates to over here in the US? A Taco Bell worker. That's the salary equates to that. So guess what? We have tons of people who are once again outsourcing jobs to these other countries, just like what happened with the industrial age when the mass factories popped up. We are now outsourcing left brain capability jobs. We have people in Asia who are managing our websites, who are developing our software. 50% of GE software is developed across the ocean. Sony, Hewlett Packard, all of those. I was actually speaking to someone recently who works for a business here in Tell City. And I was explaining this, and he goes, oh yeah, Kim, he goes, our web developer is someone over in Asia that I've never met, but I pay him like $8 an hour. Well, guess what? I'm paying like $100 an hour. And so many of these left brain jobs are being outsourced. So it's not going to be enough in the 21st century for you to be just an engineer or a doctor or an accountant. We need you to be an engineer with right brain capabilities so that you show up and you have creative ways of designing and looking at things. It's funny, even our doctors, for example, at Columbia Medical Center, they've done some research and they found out that the average doctor will interrupt you within 21 seconds of your appointment when you begin talking. 21 seconds. I did not too long ago, and I counted to 7 before mine. Now it's not. It was a specialty doctor that comes in from out of Tell City, but within 21 seconds, the average doctor interrupts you. And at Columbia University, they're actually having to take classes now, their doctors are, on how to be listeners. Because what they know is it's not enough just to follow an algorithm now to treat someone, that we really need to look at it holistically. We need to listen to our patient. Even though we might have 15 patients with anxiety, we can't just automatically prescribe the same thing for all 15 of them, which is what the algorithm would tell you. We have to really read that patient holistically and listen to them and see, what's their mental, emotional, spiritual state. And so doctors at Columbia University are now required to take empathy classes so that they can learn to listen to their patients. They are also required to take art classes. Why? Because they have found that doctors who learn to step back from a painting and read all the details and the hidden messages within the painting, and then can bring all of that together for an interpretation, are the same doctors who will do that exact same process with you when they treat you as a patient. Interestingly enough, these types of things are happening at some of our major universities. What we're saying is we need you, doctors, accountants, engineers, to have some right brain capabilities. And so the way that we do that in the classroom is by, one, we've got to teach our children to have a growth mindset. For me, I work really hard on saying, I tell the truth, which is I'll say, I'm not a healthy eater yet, but I add the yet because I am working on it. And so we're working on that at Strobel Education. We're going to teach growth mindset, but I'm super, super, super big on this creativity thing because I believe that our children are yearning to be creative. And as I've watched Genius Hour taking place in schools, I'm reading what Tish said. Yeah, IQ will get you the job, and EQ, emotional intelligence, will allow you to keep the job and be promoted within the job. I love that, Tish. You're exactly right. And so that emotional intelligence, that right brain, empathy, relationship, compassion, design, creativity capabilities, those are becoming extremely important. And so that's why I'm super on this whole Genius Hour thing. I'm teaching Genius Hour at schools, and I'm doing a PD on Genius Hour because I am determined to get creativity back into our classrooms. And you know what else? I found that our teachers are yearning for this. Our teachers want to give opportunities for their students to be creative. They're a little scared because they're so driven by that darn test, which is only left brain capabilities, but they want to add that creativity element. And as I've been helping incorporate Genius Hours in classrooms, and I specifically have been working in Whitney Leatherland's classroom, I will tell you all, when they do Genius Hour, the learning is skyrocketed. And what's so interesting is, it's not that really Whitney's doing the teaching, it's that she's facilitating it, but the kids are coming up with way better ideas and activities and things that they want to learn about than the teacher could ever come up with. So I think that the learning is actually elevated when we give students the opportunity to be creative in the classroom. And guess what, Abby McKinney? That means that little Miss Ella McKinney should be allowed to draw in school. So anyway, we are teaching growth mindset one day this winter, and I'm teaching how to incorporate a Genius Hour another date. And I'm just super excited. You know, it's funny, Ken Robinson wrote this book, you know, Creative Schools, the Grassroots Revolution of Transforming Our Education System. And I will tell you, those standards are very prevalent when we do Genius Hour. Actually, I watched Whitney hit several of the standards just in the 2-hour time slot that I was in there last time. But I want this for our kids, because I believe that we have a ton of kids who are going through our school system and they feel like they are not smart. And while, you know, I believe in calling an ace or a spade, yes, when it comes to those left brain capabilities, if that's all we're measuring, they may come across as not knowing how to do those processes very easily. But I will tell you that they have other contributions to make that are just as important or more important than the left brain capabilities. And so I'm on a mission to make sure that all of our kids feel like they are worth it, that they have something to contribute, that they are enough and just as good as someone else who is considered, you know, one of the super smart kids. It's funny, I still remember when Spencer was in the first grade and he came home, we were talking at supper, and he said, we were talking about somebody, he goes, oh, she's one of the smart kids. And I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, well, you know, there's the smart kids in the class and then there's the ones that aren't so smart. You know, he's a little first grader. He didn't know any better. But in first grade, those little clicks, those little identifications of who's smart and who's not were already formed. And so it just makes me think, how many kids are we missing when those are the only things that we're measuring? And so I really think, oh, you're so sweet, Pat. I know I need to write a book, but I'm so stressed right now that I can barely keep my head above water. But you're exactly right. Cindy, yes, I am actually coming to Evansville to teach Growth Mindset and Genius Hour. And if you want to message me your email, I can add it. But I'm actually, let me look here on my little dates. Oh my goodness, what did I do? I have all this paperwork. I try to be so organized. So I am teaching Growth Mindset on January 31st in Evansville at the Doubletree, and on February 1st, I'm teaching how to incorporate a Genius Hour, the power of passion, play, purpose, and creativity on February 1st. So, yep, coming to Evansville on those. But anyway, I don't know. Actually, you know what? I had intended today to talk about something totally different. I was going to talk to y'all about new moon wishes, because today is the new moon and we get to make wishes and we get to utilize the energy of the universe to help manifest certain things. But I just sidetracked all that and I got on this. So we'll save that maybe for next week's new moon. But anyways, just things to consider as we go forward, and maybe ways that we can help our students really believe in themselves, because we know that students who can learn to believe in themselves will actually produce and exceed and succeed and have higher achievement levels if they just believe in themselves. And so it's up to us to create that mindset with our students, and then as adults to also consider, what do we have a fixed mindset and what do we have a growth mindset, and how do we work on changing those fixed mindsets. So anyway, hope everyone has a good day.